If you buy this laptop in France, you'll see a badge on the price tag boasting an eye-popping 10 out of 10 repairability score. Now that's a pretty big claim for anything, especially a 2-in-1 gaming tablet laptop hybrid. ASUS is selling the ROG Flow Z13 as one $2,000 machine for everything: tablet, laptop, work rig, and gaming rig. But if you're treating this thing like a portable device and using it like a tablet, you're right to think about what you'll do when it slips out of your hand onto the concrete. Does ASUS really have something to brag about here when it comes to repair? Well, let's find out. At iFixit, we've been scoring products' repairability for 15 years, and scoring is taking off around the world. France has been giving repairability scores since 2021. Europe got on board in July last year with an A through E score for smartphones. And last month, New York passed a law requiring repairability scores in the US too. The French index is the furthest along, covering smartphones, laptops, vacuum cleaners, and more. There's a lot about it that's similar to iFixit's score, but there are a couple of things we don't love. For one, the score is self-reported, and not everything on it can be audited by a third party like ourselves, so we can't actually tell you whether everything ASUS says about the Z13 holds up. The French score includes things like how long ASUS will provide parts and how long they'll give product updates, which we can't verify. What we can do though is give it a score using our own system and talk about how that compares with what's required for a 10 out of 10 in France. Our score focuses more heavily on design, accounting for 80% of our score compared to 20% in France. We think a repairability score more than anything else should tell you how easy or hard it is to take something apart and put it back together. So, can you take apart the Z13? We're going in from the display side first, but that attachment system is also why, in the iFixit scoring system, this would clearly be a tablet. Either way, great to be able to replace the screen or keyboard side independently. That already tells you something about the product architecture. The screen is the front door to everything. As far as the French score is concerned, the Windows operating system makes this a laptop. The screen comes away first and it comes away cleanly. We love an easy peel screen. Once the display is off, the battery can be disconnected right away. It is screwed in, not glued in. Again, good, practical, a real repair win. In both the iFixit and French systems, to score device design, you pick a set of core components for a product category, the things that are most important and most likely to break. Then you trace a repair path to those components. Screen and battery matter more than anything else, both for tablets and laptops. So far, that 10 out of 10 is looking straight up plausible. And there's more good news in storage. The M.2 drive is accessible without major disassembly. The rear camera and front-facing camera modules are also right there after the screen comes off. That's the kind of layout repair people like to see. Now for the less fun parts. The speakers are buried under the battery, though they are still removable. The microSD reader is modular, but it sits under several other components. The I/O board is modular too, but you have to earn it. This is the real ASUS story so far. There is a lot of modularity in the design, but not everything is placed with service in mind. One of the two fans is trapped under the heatsink, which turns a simple maintenance job into a more annoying one, and liquid metal on the SoC does not make that any friendlier. You can see the difference between technically repairable and pleasant to repair starting to widen here. Once the case is cleared out, the motherboard comes out fairly cleanly. The board itself is not the problem is what ASUS chose to solder to it. The RAM is soldered, the wireless is soldered, and all the ports are soldered. That is a lot of permanent decisions on a device that wants credit for being repairable. It also means ASUS's self-reported score isn't fully accurate. They should have lost points on the French scoring system for the non-removable RAM, power connector, and soldered ports. On our scorecard, since we're scoring this thing as a tablet thanks to its easy peel screen, ASUS actually comes out a bit ahead on this one. On our laptop scorecard, for example, the soldered RAM alone would be a serious problem, but we're more lenient about removable storage for tablets. ASUS does publish a service manual, a requirement for a 10 on both our scorecard and the French scorecard, but the manual is incomplete in ways that matter. It does not give you the full troubleshooting help, details about parts, or board level guidance you would want from a genuinely repair-friendly machine. Parts availability is a bit of a mixed bag. If you're in France, the path to getting parts is actually pretty good. On the support tab, you can click through to the repairability index page for your model and from there to supported parts. They're still not cheap enough to account for a perfect score as far as we can tell, but at least they're available. In the US, it's trickier. ASUS wants you to confirm a problem using their diagnostic tools and then have you apply for authorization to receive a part at no cost. That's not the same thing as selling parts directly to consumers and supporting DIY repair. That is especially ugly because some repairs depend on already having a working machine. If the RAM or SSD fails, the whole "just use the diagnostic tool" story starts to fall apart. We're taking this as a sign that the scores are doing their job though. Parts are significantly easier to buy in a country where ASUS gets brownie points for making them available. So ASUS is reporting this device as a 10 out of 10 on their own repairability index page for France, though weirdly they're not reporting the same score everywhere. On Amazon, they report a 9.3. We suspect that ASUS recalculated scores at some point, but put only the initial calculation into the optional database, and there's no one source to check the history of calculated scores. Either way, the score is higher than we'd give it. On our own scale, our repairability engineers gave this a 7 out of 10 repairability score. The device opens well, the battery is screwed down, the SSD is accessible. But the ports are soldered, the RAM is soldered, the wireless is soldered, and the part story is weak enough that a lot of the practical repair value leaks away. Although we can't fully audit the French score, when it comes to device design, we see a few things that make a perfect score impossible. ASUS isn't doing something uniquely evil. This is actually a pretty repairable device, all things considered. But when we let manufacturers self-report, it's easy for them to get away with some real fudging. As repairability scores take off around the world, we hope regulators will take notice. Scores and the calculations behind them should be clearly publicly auditable, and when consumers see a 10 out of 10 repairability score on a price tag, that should mean something real. You tell us, any of you who are rocking a Z13, how's it been to repair? Do you think it deserves that 10 out of 10 French score?